welcome back to The Watch. And, you know, here at The Watch Oz, we have a bit of a reputation.
What reputation?
Well, a reputation of being haters, that we only are here to try and dunk on films because we have an axe to grind against Hollywood, and we want to try and stick it back to them by ripping everything they make, a new one, and trying to get people to not support anything at all, because we've never liked a single thing mainstream has ever made, at all. Obviously and clearly, there's definitely no examples of us actually liking films on this channel in abundance. There's not a wealth of that.
Yeah, the haters say that?
The haters say that.
They deserve the hate of us, actually.
You hate them as a result?
It wouldn't be a mistake to say I hate them.
Yeah.
Like, I've said it once, twice, 3 times now. I hate them so much.
Well, based on that reputation, I have some very strong feelings about this film.
Tell me how you feel.
Well, I'll tell you how I feel. In fact, this friggin' film, this bloody film, right? The whole thing, after I watched the whole thing, I watched the whole bloody thing, and after it, I came out of the film, and I friggin' loved it. Oh, amazing. Shocking. What did you think of the film?
Yeah, look, I didn't love it. I did really like it and appreciate it and thought it had balls.
Yeah, there's a lot to really enjoy about this film, and there are many things we like, all right? In more recent memory, House of the Dragon, Dungeons and Dragons. I mean, we didn't like Fallout, the TV series. That was bad.
Another Fall thing.
Oh, Fall something, right? But no, this film is surprisingly well made. There is some really strong visual storytelling that they use throughout the film, sometimes in even meta ways. There is meta kind of, because it's structured around people trying to make a film. Yeah. And so they sometimes talk about the film that they're trying to make, and it actually affects the way that the film is presented on screen. Yes. The one we're watching.
And I appreciated that.
I liked it. I thought, like, sometimes I'm worried about meta humor because it can come cringe, but they executed it well. And not only that, like, there's a number of things, like even the introduction of the film with the voiceover, where it's like, this is me, I'm doing this and stuff, executed very well, very competently. There are nitpicks I have, and we'll probably get to those in the spoilers section, but those things don't ruin the film for me. In actual fact, it was really enjoyable. One of the things I enjoyed most, I think, was all the practical stunts, which is very appropriate for this film. This film is about a stuntman, okay? And so when I was going in, the movie was starting, I was thinking it would be really like counterintuitive for the nature of this film, the tone of this film, to not have practical stunts in it.
Yeah.
Not only do they have practical stunts, they have some of the most impressive stunts I've seen in a while. Like, I think every single thing was a real stunt.
Yeah?
Yeah. And like, there's a moment where they have to set up a car getting flipped over and roll, and in the film they say it's a record. I actually think that is a real world record of how many times they got the car to roll over.
Okay.
Yeah, because after the film, they show them the actual filmmakers filming their stunts in real life, and they show the real filmmakers, and they cheer that it's a record.
Oh, I like that.
I really like it. And, like, there are some really impressive stunts, like this giant, car ramp jump that goes over a crazy distance. And so it actually made me feel a bit in the same way of me watching a classic Jackie Chan movie where he does crazy real stunts. And it enhanced the film overall. There is something more enjoyable when you see it and you know that someone, there's probably wires and other things like that, but they're doing it.
Yeah.
That sense of realness makes it more impressive. Like when I saw, there's a moment where he's hanging from the helicopter and he swung and grabs another thing, I think. You just get a wow factor that you don't get when you know it's CGI.
Yeah, even if there's wires and safety equipment, the fact that blood may be spilled for your enjoyment makes you feel like a god and you have power over their lives. So that's why it makes it good.
Well, not for me. I don't get the god angle, but I do get definitely not us.
I'm powerful.
But you get the wow factor, like when you watch someone at the gymnastics when they execute something incredible and you think, gosh, people are awesome kind of thing. You get that feeling.
People are pretty awesome, aren't they?
People can be awesome.
But sometimes they suck.
Sometimes they suck balls. All right, all of that would just make it enjoyable. There's a part of this film that actually made me love it. And the things that make me love a film are actually when it achieves something a little bit more noble. Okay? That there's something, that it's saying something that might have an underlining truth to it. And that raises a film above just mindless entertainment. I think most people just get mindless entertainment. They won't look into it as deeply as I do. But the whole film is actually contextualized by a classic trope.
That actors are pussies.
No, well, actually, again, meta humor like that. There's meta kind of observations about actors, about production, and I did love that. There was just a soulless, truly soulless corporate kind of producer throughout the film. And sometimes I wonder because people in Hollywood clearly know aspects of the industry are just toxic, like the unspoken thing about Harvey Weinstein, right?
Oh, yeah.
And I have a feeling like when they inject characters like that are reflecting something real, if they might be upsetting the people that are actually like that.
Yeah, and I was honestly thinking the whole time, like every time they talked about, what's his name, Tom Ryder, I thought they were taking the piss of, what's his name, Tom Cruise. I thought that's what they were doing.
Like, maybe.
Could be wrong.
Could be wrong. But he was like dead set against not doing his own stunts, and Tom Cruise is a bit of a badass when it comes to stunts.
As far as we know, it could be a massive thing.
Massive cover-up?
A conspiracy, people.
The whole deepfake stuff? If it's all true, that I think it is, that he does most of his stunts and he's done crazy things, he's a badass.
If he does, then that is amazing.
Yeah. So what is this trope that I'm talking about? And it can sometimes be perceived or done wrong, and then when it's done wrong, there is a negative connotation about it, and people might think that this whole film is just a guy simping after a girl willing to like kill himself for the bare crumbs of attention. Well, no, what this actually is the trope of the noble, brave man willing to go and do incredible, dangerous deeds to win the affection of the fair lady. That's what this film actually is in terms of the overall trope that they're playing with. And it can fall into kind of that negative simp stereotype when the woman doesn't properly acknowledge and reciprocate that attention, that affection, but also that effort to try and win their love.
Yeah, or worse, like in modern movies, acts like a victim.
Like a victim, exactly. And there was a warning sign at the beginning, but they kind of redeem it later on. And so this is a classic trope that harkens back to traditional chivalric romance literature, right? So it's an old school trope. And the reason that why it works in this film is that there are times in the film where she reciprocates, and when she actually discovers what he's been doing to try and save things, right? She is willing to sacrifice stuff that's important for her to save him. And I'll mention this specific, and that's kind of when the movie started to really win me over. I was already enjoying it. It was a very enjoyable film, but when it like touches on noble truths like that in actual love, both partners sacrifice what's important for them for the welfare of each other because they love each other and they're willing to do those difficult things to save the other person, right? And that's how a good relationship should work. Each partner should put the other's, welfare above their own. But if it's only a one-way street, that's when the relationship becomes toxic.
Yeah.
And that's sometimes how it is depicted. That the guys just have to do everything the woman says and the woman can step over them. They didn't do that. So it has that kind of actually made me really feel something. It's like, okay. And then the stunts really ramp up in the finale. They push it to a new level.
In speed and in height.
Yep. Yeah. And the plot mostly plays out logically, but there are some question marks that, it's on the verge of breaking immersion, yet I think they just did enough to sell it enough, even though it's not realistic, just to sell it enough for you to suspend your disbelief and still go along with the story.
Well, there were some things that felt like messages to the audience that I liked that made me forgive all of that. When he's speaking to the drug dealer in the club, and the drug dealer's like, I love cartoons because a cartoon doesn't pretend to be real. The cartoon knows that it's fake, and everyone knows it. So I appreciated that, like, it was basically telling me the director or the writer was saying, this is a movie, let it go. Like, that's what it felt like to me. And I'm like, you know what? Fair enough. And they just gave me ridiculous, crazy stunts and awesome visuals. And so I'm like, yeah, fair enough.
Yeah. And likable characters, honestly.
Yeah.
The main character, he was likable. And he was also kind of, he was beat down, but he wouldn't give up. And he was committed to try and, save the person he loved and go through all this crap. And also there was kind of like this just realness in the character where there was a fakeness in the movie star guy.
Oh yeah, Aaron Taylor Johnson.
Yeah, and I like Aaron Taylor Johnson as an actor. I think he does a great job, and he was perfectly well in this. Ryan Gosling is the star of it, as I think it should be. Now, also that kind of refreshing, yet it's a bit of give and take. It's a bit of balance, right? My tolerance of wokeness is very, very low, but if there is, and this movie isn't actually woke, it's really because I guess I like it, because in isolation, I don't think these things would even be on my radar. And when I say in isolation, if it wasn't just we see constant kind of woke stereotypical tropes injected into films that they stand out more. For instance, like the guy is not allowed to save women. Women have to save themselves. And there was a clear moment in the film when a woman kind of, needed to be saved. And his actions enabled her to save herself.
What scene was that one?
Well, we'll get into the spoilers, but it was a car chase scene when she was, the kidnapped.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, right. When, because there's at least two, probably even three moments in this film when there are some kind of girl boss-ish moments. Not really, but it's like women are beating up men who really have no talent or experience. And Ryan Gosling, the character in the movie, is a badass. He can beat up gangsters and is tough as hell. There's a moment when he basically gets beaten up by a girl who has no experience or training at all. And it's like, you can see why they do that. There's that DNA in it, but it's not explicit. And it's easy to ignore because there's another thing that I would actually say was an anti-woke moment, and we both kind of chuckled at it. There's a line about toxic masculinity in it, and the framing and use of that line was in a clear way that the use or appeal to toxic masculinity is cope. And you could interpret that because the character was using it as cope and deflection of her own bad actions, and it was blatant that she was doing that, right? And that was kind of like almost a report or a dig at, people using, victim status and stuff like that, which is actually, I would actually call an anti-woke kind of thing.
Oh, yeah.
That I was just making fun of it.
Because nothing's more masculine than crashing a car, jumping through a window, or having the crap kicked out of you, set on fire and thrown across the room. It is. And being like that afterwards.
Exactly. And that's throughout the whole film. And so in that sense, this film lets masculinity have its moment and shine and let the male guy do some really tough things to save the girl. Not physically, because he doesn't get to save her, but save her career, right? And because I do think there's still the Hollywood kind of checkboxes saying, "Oh no, we can't have a man save a woman," but I think they worked around it. It's like, I wonder if there was even an edict saying you need to mention toxic masculinity in the film, and because if that was the case, they did a very tongue-in-cheek way. That's almost a slap in the face of those expectations in the film production thing. And you're right that most of the film is actually celebrating the masculine virtue of,
get back up. Yep.
You get beaten down, but also risking and doing really dangerous things. Okay, that sometimes that's the guy's duty.
I'd say basically always.
Yeah.
Women get their dangerous duty. That's childbirth, right? Otherwise, I don't want them around anything that blows up or anything that wants to hit them.
Right?
Yeah.
And so that DNA is also in the film. In fact, I would say this positive masculinity DNA in the film is vastly greater than the negative things that you can point out here and there, but it gets overshadowed. And as a result, and look, this is only if you're hypersensitive to this stuff. Most people, they're not going to care. And you're going to enjoy a really fun film that actually not only has incredible stunt work in it, as it should, because it's almost a celebration of that career, right? But it also has something that's a bit deeper inside, baked into it, that harkens to a universal truth that will resonate with people and they will connect with it. But that's what happened to me. I was able to feel something more because of what this film is actually saying in the overall trope that it was depicting, and it made me love the film.
Yeah, I just appreciated that the people who aren't appreciated are appreciated. Yeah. And these people, they're the modern day gladiator.
Yeah.
Like, they literally are, their work is a blood sport, and they do die often. You know, it's a horrible shame, but they do it and they love it. And
I get into the meta kind of. There are multiple meta narratives in this film, and one of the ones that I felt was quite clear was the conflict between CGI effects and practical real effects.
Yeah.
Because it comes up in the film like we can just do it in you know, for special effects, and we don't need to do the big stunt, right? This film actually shows. In the film itself, this wasn't the meta, even though there's a mention and there's a nod to this meta kind of discussion in the film. I feel the actual execution of the film with the high level stunts it does proves the point that there is something special about doing it real. Okay, and it hits harder. You get wowed more by it, and it's so interesting that they had that kind of battle in the film, and they prove it with the actual film that they show ultimately, because this film is even more enjoyable because of the practical stunts in it.
Yeah, you can't fake reality, and the practicality of it. There's things that just a CG artist won't account for, no matter how skilled they are.
Yeah,
and so yeah, it really takes you out of it sometimes when it's bad.
I mean, and like this this kind of battle between practical stunts and just doing it, like this has come up in other films. I remember watching the special features for Blade. I think it was Blade Trinity, where there were a lot of stunt people getting really upset because there was some stunt work and action scenes taken away from them and replaced with CGI.
Yeah.
And there's a moment like there's a fight scene between Blade and another character that is so bad CGI it rips you out of the film. But then there's another moment in the film because there's a stunt in the film that they were thinking of trying to do with CGI, and they were battling. It was taking a difficulty, and what the moment was, someone was on a motorbike, bends, like falls off, scrapes down, and Blade jumps over the motorbike, right? And they ended up doing with practical effects. They have a stuntman do it, and it looks great as a result. And I think they even saved money doing it that way. And that was actually, they talk about that battle that they were having in the production between choosing to do things with practical effects, CGI. And so this is an old kind of discussion and conflict that it was interesting to see them point out and nod that this is a difficult battle, sometimes, but also sometimes doing it in real life just makes it better.
And there's one instance that I know of where practical effects just do not work. Have you seen Predator?
Well, the original, yeah.
The original, yeah. You know how they have the heat vision?
Yeah.
They tried doing actual proper heat vision in the jungle in Guatemala for filming that. And so the practical effects guys were like, everything's lit up because it's bloody hot out here. We'll just spray the environment with ice water. And it was costing them so much money, so they just took it to Industrial Light and Magic. And anyway, sorry, yeah.
But no, you're right. Because even though I think this film really does celebrate practical effects, and it gets a win because it is better for it. Some things are better with CGI as well. I'm not like one way or the other.
But right tool for the right job, obviously.
Yes, exactly. And so I would give this film an 8 out of 10.
Yeah, when it got really good, I was thinking 8 out of 10, but sometimes there were some parts where I'm like, this is hitting 6, but if I take the good stuff into account, 7 or 8. So yeah, there was that 3 range right there.
And maybe I could be pushed to even a 9, but that's going to come with a deeper analysis of the plot and how well the plot plays out. And I think there are some issues in the specifics of how the plot plays out. Not enough to pull most people out of the film, I feel, but there are some just question marks here and there. But everything else done really, really well. And I was surprised by some of the wit in the dialogue, some of the competence that they showed in the depiction of the dialogue with the filmmaking techniques, like the whole meta discussion of the split screen in the film.
Like that.
That was just executed really well. And what's interesting about it, that meta humor where they're actually talking about the filmmaking techniques as you're watching it, I've watched something recently where it was done really poorly. So Invincible, the animation, I've recently finished watching the Invincible season 1 because they did something so stupid. They broke up the season release, and after the first 4 episodes, it took ages for the other episodes to go out, and it killed interest in season 2 as a result. But the 5 episodes come out, and I watched them, and there's one moment where the character goes up to the creator of his favorite comic book, and he talks about that he's excited to see the animation. And then this guy starts talking about, there's problems with animations, but there's shortcuts that we can do. And he starts to talk about the shortcuts in animation. And as the it's a cartoon is playing out, as he's mentioning each shortcut, they do the shortcut. Like sometimes you can just have the back shot of someone who's talking and nothing is actually moving, but you're given the illusion, and then they show it. To me, it didn't work because that was just pointing out those shortcuts that then pull you out of it, and then you start to notice them more throughout the entire rest of the animation. And it was a bad decision as a result. And so when they have that time, and it was funny, in the moment, but it ultimately worked against it. And so meta humor can, when you try and do that, can backfire. It doesn't backfire in this film. The split screen, the fact that they're actually talking about some of the
relevant
emotional things, like, you know, having them separated can transfer the feeling that there's this gulf between them and a wall, but you want to see that wall broken down and then brought back in. And the way that they actually fill it, they pull it off. They pull it off. And that is just one example of very competent filmmaking, that the people who are making this film know their craft, know how to use visual storytelling to convey the story and enhance it, and even make jokes at their own expense and jokes at the style of film in an enjoyable way.
It probably worked in this case because they set it up, and then like once they set it up, then they just let it play, let the scene play itself. Like they presented us, here's the scene, whereas it sounds like with the Invisible One, it's like they were doing it, here's putting a red spotlight right onto it every time with no other purpose. Is that
kind of, yeah. And so there is some really good dialogue in it. Like there's a strong moment when he's talking about, you know, how much it hurts, or, you know, every time he does all this stunts, and then he reflects that, but it never hurt as much as not being with you kind of thing. Just good dialogue there. That was sold well. And even when he says, like, that was a really good line, you should use that. Like, it actually worked well in the context of the film. And so there is humor and wit in the film that works and is funny. Like even some silly moments when he's trying to get glass out of his hood.
That was funny.
and he gets the glass out and more glass, and he gets like, what the heck? And it just keeps falling out. When he's high and
I love that. That's hilarious.
And he's like, so how long is it going to last? Last what? How long am I going to see the unicorn? And it cuts and there's a unicorn there because he's high. Like,
and then you see it pop up every now and then.
Yeah, I mean, there's some funny moments in this that where they do some jokes and they land, and then combine that with all the other enjoyable parts of the film. It's a really good film. I highly recommend it. We've been missing good films like this for a while that are just not only well written enough, like I said, there are issues with that, but excellently filmed and shot with true competence on display, people that know their craft, they know how to convey the story, and they're in control of what's happening. Everything seems very intentional, on purpose, and well done as a result. And it's so refreshing to see such a well-made, crafted film with a very clear narrative and story it wants to tell. And there's even some twists, all right, some reveals that like make perfect sense, but I wasn't predicting. But now we need to get to spoilers to mention what those are. So final thoughts in the non-spoilers. Like I said, I'm sitting on an 8 out of 10. I could be pushed either way depending on a deeper analysis, but I highly recommend. This is a great, fun film. No real annoying woke stuff. In fact, there's more virtue, universal truths in it. And so... yeah, this is a film happily I'll take my kids to. I'll watch again, and I will remember it as an enjoyable film and be up there amongst the ones I like.
Yeah, I'll definitely watch all the cool action scenes, but my problems with it are not as important as how good the movie was. But
All right, so let's get into spoilers. As you're ordering spoilers. So one of the twists that I felt worked really well, and we're in spoilers now, so now you know, was that the actor caused the guy's accident at the beginning. Made perfect sense, especially when it's revealed how narcissistic he is about it. And they hinted at it perfectly well at the beginning, where it's just like, you're seeing his face too much. You know, can you do the stunt backwards so we don't see you, stuff like that, right? That right there shows that they set this up really well. And in actual fact, the film does excellent with setups and payoffs. Some pretty obvious, like when they introduced the gun and it has blanks in it.
I loved that. Like they literally introduced Chekhov's gun, and that was
and then they put it. It's like and it's on a shelf, but it's like that's on the mantelpiece.
Yeah.
But that speaks to how they know the tropes they're working with. They do it intentionally, sometimes so intentionally they want you to know that this we are leaning into clear, obvious tropes, but we're going to use it in a very natural way. Because when they get attacked and they're in that location, like, by the way, one small thing that again is they're in Australia. That's an imitation. That is a real firearm, and no actor would be allowed to just.
Oh yeah, but they're actors; they can get away with basically anything.
It would be highly illegal. That would have to be sneak it offset and then put it on the thing. But they set up the gun in this location. They get attacked in that location. We need to grab weapons. It's blank, but they set that up. That then that's the gun is pretending to ward people off, and I can't remember if he actually grabbed Reddy Young's real gun.
No.
It was hard to see, but I think but anyway, he ultimately gets disarmed and the bad guy has him and then shoots him with it and he fakes, he does a full stunt kind of fake death. And the guy thinks he's dead because he didn't really pay too much attention. And then he sees it and he takes a moment to run away and the guy's still shooting at it. Like, perfect setup and payoff. But there are multiple times where they do that setup and payoff really well. Like the whole twist where it was the actor who caused his accident, where they have simple nods that was kind of perfectly in line with his character. And if I watch again, you notice when they happen, but then many things happen. But there was a number of things that had like simple things as well, like when they're talking about the prop, where I don't really like this, and then she ends up using it later on. It's like, oh, this actually does work.
Yeah.
Multiple times like that, where they understand setup and payoff, lead it in, and then it comes in later on, and it works really well.
Yeah, there was one really obvious part though. When they showed that movie producer lady, being a manipulative, sociopathic, evil bitch.
Yeah.
That's every movie producer. There was no real nuance with that character.
But I like that she was so manipulative, nice. Yeah, because I've talked with people who've worked directly in Hollywood, right? Multiple people, not just one, multiple people. Some who have had very strong association in productions, and some of the stuff that they tell you about many of the people in Hollywood is almost exactly that.
Yeah, it's kind of fitting that we were talking about that.
Maybe not murderers, but like the whole fake,
I don't know. OJ was in The Naked Gun.
Sorry, you were about to say?
I was going to say we were literally discussing that on the way to the movie.
On the way to the film. So I think she actually was a perfect antagonist. Same with the main actor. I think the fact that he was a villain worked really, really well.
Aaron Taylor Johnson could do anything. He was Black Douglas in the Outlaw King.
I know, and I didn't recognize him. I did not recognize him in Outlaw King. He did such a good job. And I did not even recognize him in Age of Ultron.
Yeah.
I saw him in Kick-Ass, and he aged so well.
He was in our Bullet Train as well.
I know.
Yeah, this guy.
he's a great actor. And he's really come into his own, especially from the old Kick-Ass days where he played a wimpy kid so well.
Yeah.
Now he can actually play...
Someone who kicks ass.
Someone who really kicks ass.
Yeah. But what do you call it? Ryan Gosling, the hero.
Yeah.
He's literally me.
You reckon?
I connect. I feel as beaten down, but by society, as he was by his own stunts in those.
So
movies.
there was another mixed narrative you were connecting with on a subtextual level.
Yes, I was. Yeah. He looks like he'd make a good Joe in real life.
So one of the warning signs in the film, and I leant over and even told Oz this, right, is that so the main actor guy has this big accident, breaks his back, and he is basically goes incommunicado for 18 months because something affected him emotionally and is in trauma and his life is completely off the rails, right? He gets called up by the manipulative lady, and this I need to point out something to the credit of the film. I was wondering, because the setup of the film is that the actor is missing and he might be in trouble with some criminal elements, and she calls the stuntman to find him. And I was already thinking, why would you call this stuntman? Maybe she tries to justify it. You know him best. You can get in his head, find where he is, and you're also physical and capable and stuff. And I can't go to the police because she says that I would shut down production. If they lose their main actor. But the thing is, though, the film ultimately finishes with them losing their main actor, and they replace him pretty easily, and the production goes forward. So I wasn't I was on that, but the real reasons why she called him kind of do make sense. They needed,
to frame him.
They needed a fall guy.
That's the name of the movie.
That's the name of the movie. And by picking him, they're picking someone who might have motive to kill, because the actor guy kills the stuntman, the stuntman working on the film, and by picking his former stuntman, that's motive where he could say he tried to kill the current stuntman to replace his job. So that actually made good logical sense in the reveal. So I got to give it credit that. Going back to the setup of the film is that he hasn't been working in Hollywood after he has this injury. And she calls him to say, come and work on the film as a smokescreen to get him there. And once he's there, she says, I need you to find the actor. And he only says yes when he finds out that the camera woman of the film that he worked on, where he had the set, and the film sets up their love relationship quite well in the beginning, very quickly, very snappy, very efficiently. And now she's the director. It's over a year later. And he wants to do it for her because he wants to rekindle something. He feels good to something. When he arrives, though, she is very cold to him. And this is where I was a bit, because she basically is playing the victim from him having broken his back. Okay. And I said to Oz, guy breaks his back, nearly kills himself, woman most affected.
Yeah.
And it played out kind of strongly in that way. And we see some, stories, shows, whatever, do that in a really negative way. Like He-Man Revelations or the rebooted He-Man animation.
Yeah. I literally died and I had to live with it.
I was like, oh, holy crap, the selfishness of the Teela character was unbelievable. And so that one, I didn't like that element. You would think, if this guy nearly died, broke his back, yeah, there might be some trauma involved. I get that it could ruin a relationship, but the fact that she was like, how dare you, you never called me, instead of understanding that this probably messed him up, was rubbing me the wrong way. But then it redeemed itself later on, especially when he dies and, he doesn't. His death is fate, and she thinks he has died, and he comes back and he reveals that he's been framed for murder, and they're trying to get after him. And in response to that, she says, well, we need to exonerate you. We need to get them to confess. And she lays out a plan that would ruin her film and production, her dream of achieving this whole thing. And he says, like, no, that would ruin your film. And she's like, that doesn't matter. We need to save you. And right then, that was when, bang, that's the reciprocation. That's how they made that trope work. She is willing to sacrifice her dream now to save him after she realizes how much he has been sacrificing to try and save her. Then he says, no, you can't give up on your dream, basically. We've got to find a way to make it work. And then that wins her love and she kisses him. And I was like, beat for beat, perfect.
And it's accurate too, because us men want women to succeed.
Yes.
Right? Just not unfairly in our field. We don't care if they succeed in our field, as long as it's not unfairly.
Just not unfairly.
Yeah.
But going back to what you said, men do want women to succeed and want to help them succeed. Men love to serve women if it's reciprocated, right? No, men, like I provide and protect for my wife and my family, and it gives me fulfillment and satisfaction and joy, all right? And my wife reciprocates as well, okay? And we offer things to each other, and that's how love works. That's the exchange. And this film had it, and it won me over when it showed that. And I was like, good job. So even with that rocky start, okay, maybe she could have been a bit selfish, but she gives that up. She throws away the selfishness when she realizes, she even throws it away before that, when she starts to realize that he's dealing with some stuff.
Yeah.
Okay, because he tries to explain it when, again, there's the meta. They love doing that, where they start to talk about their relationship in the film, right? By talking about the film they're trying to film and the characters that they're trying to thing. And again, there's a lot of meta kind of subtext happening. Some very obvious and clear, but they work with it well.
There was one thing, though, how she uses, like, her position of power.
Position to punish him.
And discuss the relationship. She's okay to do that. But when Harvey Weinstein does his position to discuss a relationship... Uses
his position of power to...
I'm just kidding.
I know. But the thing is, though, she does force him to do the stunt over and over because it's hurting him.
Yeah.
And that felt cruel and vindictive.
Yeah, but you know, this pissed her off, so I don't mind being punished as long as me being, I can take this, pisses them off more than it does hurt me. Problem solved.
And he does get to express himself, and she starts to understand a bit more, being willing to give him a second chance. And I have to admit, I was surprised at how invested I got in the relationship, because when he says that he's going to try and meet her at the karaoke bar, where that was her. And again, it's the whole reciprocation thing, because she invited him to the karaoke bar when she saw him work so hard, because there's a scene where she's like, all right, maybe we can film this action scene in one shot. And I think I could do it with you. And then he gives it his all. And he really puts in the effort. And by showing that he's willing to sacrifice to achieve what she wants, she sees like, wow, you really do, you want to earn my affection, basically. And she reciprocates, say, come to the karaoke bar. And then when the goons come and affect him from getting there on time, I was invested. I was like, that's like I felt, that's something I was getting robbed from me by the fact that he wasn't able to get there. Now, of course, I know what they were doing. This is classic trope stuff where it's a bait and switch, where you think that it's not going to get there, but then he's going to redeem himself later on. Of course, that's what they do. So even though I knew that it's not going to ruin the relationship, I was surprised that they got me invested in it, and I had emotional desire to want to see how it played out.
This might be controversial. I wasn't a fan of the karaoke scene because for me it was like, okay, action scene, action scene, action scene, and then they cut way too much to the karaoke bar. I was like, show me the action. I want to follow the main character. And that was my main problem with...
I mean, I don't think that's a controversial take. I just didn't like the karaoke stuff because I don't like karaoke.
I was just thinking, man, if I ever did karaoke, I'd have to sing Ed Sheeran. I'd have to. I'd be legally obligated to.
You would have
and you know what? I'd do a pretty awful job.
Yeah, that's the point of karaoke.
Yeah.
Why do people like it? And there's one line from The Evil Woman who I actually kind of agree with. Like, oh yes, I love hearing people butcher my favorite songs or something like that. I was like, true.
Yeah. No, but yeah. So that was my main problem with the movie, is that like it cut away to certain things when I want to be following the main dude, and also like that whole karaoke thing was a problem with the whole movie, right? There was too much for me. I reckon this movie could be cut down, really condensed, if it mainly followed old mate Ryan Gosling. I reckon you could half the runtime, seriously.
You couldn't halve it, but that wasn't an issue for me. In fact, because the action was so enjoyable, right? And again, the stunts were there and they were happening. And they even purposely go out of the way to do kind of classic stunts, like the car hits them and they roll into the windscreen type stunt, getting brakes on, smashing through windscreen and rolling down. They almost like try and go out of the way to do some of the most classic stunts, like even where he moves the sofas and everything to smash through the mezzanine to fall on the sofas and stuff, right?
That's what a mezzanine is. I didn't know that. Thank you.
I'm happy to educate you.
Now I know.
You know.
My life has truth in it now. Anyway, sorry, go on.
Again, I enjoyed all of that.
Yeah.
And I admit that the third act felt like it went on longer than I expected.
They said that in the movie at the very beginning.
Yes.
They said they'd do that.
Setups and payoffs, right?
I love it when
The
they do
thing is, though, the third act was so action-packed and ramped up in its intensity so well, I was hooked the entire time. And the final big because you think it's going to end with the big car jump where they get the confession from the guy, right? And I was almost expecting, that's the resolution. They won. He'll get handcuffed and everything. But no, then the crazy lady gets the gun out, steals it, and they go for a second round. And then there's another big action scene with the helicopter and trying to get on the helicopter, and then this massive drop. And I loved all of that. I love it, and it hooked me in. And so even though it felt like it got extended for a round 2 after resolution, they built it up and pushed the intensity even higher. And it's like, wow, well done.
Yeah.
Well done.
The spirit of this movie it blows any fault that it might have out of the water. It really does redeem itself, and it's Ryan Gosling, so it gets an immediate 2 points from me extra. So there you go. So,
like I said, there's been concerns. One of the concerns I had was, again, the whole I'm the victim for you running and stuff. And a couple of other, and these are minor nitpicks, and as I said, I think the film does a good enough job of selling the story to make you suspend disbelief. But like the the guy, the actor guy, kills his stuntman in front of multiple witnesses.
Ah, yeah, good point.
All right, you're not going to be able to push that under the rug, right? And it was filmed on his phone, but you're telling me no one else was filming and no one else, and these that look like just regular party goers. What, you're going to pay them all off when they are sitting on one of the most juicy stories that, like, if they go to the press or something, and all these vapid, self-interested, narcissistic people at this party wouldn't sell them out, you know? And so again, that was like, you're not going to hide that. You know, the film wants. And even then, like, I can't really excuse that. I can't suspend my disbelief. But the film was so enjoyable enough, I could ignore it.
Realistically, what would have happened is there would have been an unfortunate fire in that apartment and only the main actor would have got out.
Yeah, that's actually a good way to answer it. It's brutal as hell, but actually goes in line with, you know, how evil that guy ends up being. So that was like, that's something dumb. And then their plan to, like, keep the body on ice. I'm not a forensic expert, but I'm pretty sure they would still be able to determine cause of death. Oh, sorry, time of death.
Yeah. Would there be like ice burn, or what's it called? It's like not freezer burn. That's when it's
even that they probably could tell that it was kept.
They know the body was moved, certainly. They'd be able to tell that the body was moved and put into ice water. They'd definitely be able to tell that.
Exactly, and so the fact that they think they could logically fool the forensic, police, and then frame Ryan, I was like, that's not going to happen. He arrived in the country after the guy got killed accidentally, but they were trying to shift the blame. And then when he discovers the body, he literally tries to report it to the police, which is another moment of exoneration when they say, oh, the primary suspect's like, if you just said, talk to the police guy that I tried to show that I found a body, right?
Well, if you followed, like, the Epstein case, what are they called again? We're just talking about them. The people who study the forensics. Yeah, forensics experts have a really hard time discovering, like, when a body was moved or when it died if they have a Glock held to the back of their head. The Epstein case.
I found that they would have a difficulty determining those things.
Yeah,
but when the Glock isn't there,
it's easy.
Suddenly they can figure those things out,
like CSI.
Yeah, and so there's things like that are in the film that just do like. That are basically nonsense from a writing perspective. As I said, though, the film does such a good job that if you're not even willing to suspend disbelief, you can ignore it easier and go along with the ride and just say, all right, this is what you want me to swallow, all right? I can just go along with the ride because I'm having such a good time. This is why, like, when a film is bad and you're not along for the ride and everything's going wrong, the dialogue, the actors, everything like that, plot holes like that jump out even more. And when I've seen those things in bad films, I roast them to death. Rightly so, because it doesn't deserve any charity at that point, okay? This film has actually earned a lot of charity from me. And it's also not just me willingly saying I'm wanting to ignore it. It's because I was enjoying myself, right? I mostly, like, it was in the back of my head, but you know when you have that, like, unexplored thought where there's, like, something you're saying, there's something there, but you don't really notice it because you're enjoying too much. It's only after when you start to rethink about it, then you're like, aha, you know? That's what it was like for me in the film, okay? And that's a sign that the film is actually doing something well to get me to not notice other things because it's just enjoyable. It's caught me in and it's pulling me along in the story.
Yes, sometimes like you're saying, a thing will pop up where it's like, what? But then, like, the next thing redeems it. So you're like, why not? But what did you think of the prop katana thing? What if that'd be right up your alley?
Like, I liked it, you know. This, and then, you know, she was the girlfriend who was also an actress, and she was a bit.
She was in on it too, wasn't she?
I can't remember.
She was there.
Maybe
she was trying to frame him too.
Yeah, but that was funny. And it's always a katana whenever someone wants to use, like, a sword, you know, in movies. And then even in the fake film that they were pretending, like, the guy is using a katana and guns and things.
Is it just me, or did that movie Metal Storm, the movie they're making in the movie, that looked like a Zack Snyder movie?
It actually did. You're right.
It really did, yeah.
It really did.
In the sense that it looked awful.
It looked terrible.
Yeah. Oh, man.
But the fact that, you know, there's certain Zack Snyder films have been very successful.
Why?
Why? Because the film they're trying to say, like, that film that they were making ended up being this massive big success. Is like,
It looked awful.
It looked awful, but films like that have been massive big successes, so I can't say that that's not unrealistic.
Question is, okay, which one did a better movie making a movie? This one or Tropic Thunder? I think Tropic Thunder didn't have the pacing issues, but it didn't have nearly as much likable cast or story or anything like that as this one.
Ah, gee, that is hard. I think the way they depicted the on-set issues and stuff, especially with, like, you know, when they're introducing her as the director and people are coming to her with dumb comments and stuff like that. And I forget even, there was one comment that was really dumb. And she's like, thank you for thinking outside the box, but no, I felt they actually did that probably better than Tropic Thunder, but the thing that makes Tropic Thunder win out even higher is it Baz Luhrmann? I forget his name.
There's Tug Speedman, there's Al Pacino, Black Guy, which is hilarious.
It's the guy Tom Cruise plays.
Oh, Tom Cruise plays?
Yeah, the guy in Tropic Thunder, the really thick finger guy.
Oh, yeah, Wes something-man.
Yeah.
Wes Goldman?
Wes Goldman. And there's like not a reference to Harvey Weinstein at all, right?
No, not at all.
But in terms of the scummy movie producer, he's probably been the best parody scummy movie producer ever made.
Yeah.
Far superior than the scummy movie producer in this film, which is scummy and serves the role perfectly well, and I think the actress did a fine job. But the Goldman guy, Tom Cruise just took it to a whole nother level.
Yeah.
It was just... So I would have to give it to Tropic Thunder just for those moments, but I actually think the depiction of the fake filming was done better in this one.
Because in that one they had an incompetent director, this one competent, kind of... But yeah, anyway.
So those are kind of the main things that are on my mind about it in terms of spoiler things to talk about. And fun film. I loved it. Go check it out and you would have a blast of a time.
Yeah. Ryan Gosling can do no wrong.
I hope this film does well as a result.
Same.
Especially because, like I said, and maybe I will point out the patriarchy line, because... Sorry, not patriarchy. Toxic masculinity line. Because the use of the way they did that seemed like a slap in the face to the people who do that unironically.
Yeah.
So the scummy producer, when she's already been kind of outed as a murderer, right, and she threatened someone with a gun to get the confession that they just filmed, even though this really wouldn't save them. They have multiple witnesses. Maybe if they just got... I don't know. But anyway, the love interest director tries to stop her, and then the scummy, producer then says, we got to get out of this, we have to escape all this toxic masculinity, you and I, and stuff like that, right? And first, I love that because it was the villain disingenuously using victimhood status and using your feminism as a crutch and a tool to deflect away from her own incompetence and evil, blaming her problems. Knowingly, she knew she was lying and she was just reaching for any excuse, right, to deflect what she was doing herself, right? They didn't film that by accident. That's an intentional thing that they put in there.
I don't know, Shad. Victim status in Hollywood? I don't believe that they did that.
And that there's no producers in Hollywood that are trying to, use toxic masculinity accusations to benefit themselves.
They don't do that.
They never do that. And so it was not only well executed, it was perfectly in line with their character, right? And it wasn't an unironic promotion of woke ideology like Catwoman's line when she says, you're a white whatever, someone privileged, or the Ant-Man line when I says, I know socialism is a charged word, but we could really use...
Who the hell... Was that the new Ant-Man movie?
New Ant-Man movie.
Who said that, Paul Rudd?
No, it was the former Ant-Man, the old guy.
Bloody hell.
You haven't seen it then?
Gordon Gekko said that?
No.
Oh, no, Gordon Gekko, that actor played Gordon Gekko, a Wall Street banker in Wall Street.
Oh, okay.
Anyway, he said greed is good.
Oh, yeah.
Anyway,
well, you know that. But you haven't seen Ant-Man 2?
I haven't seen Ant-Man 2.
You are a lucky
One
man.
was enough for me.
Yes. But a colony of ants become a super civilization through socialism. And he says, I know socialism is a charged word, but we could really learn something from these ants. So annoying when there's unironic woke propaganda put into a film like that, where this is the reverse. This is actually clowning on that type of stuff.
Yeah.
And I was like, legends. Yeah.
And you know what else we forgot? This movie did justice to the stunt doggos.
Yes.
The stunt dogs who are out there, you know, wagging
Heroes.
tails. Awesome.
Hero dog in this film, biting a lot of guys in the groin.
Right in the balls.
Right on the.
Just latch around it like a cage,
Yeah.
and they chew it, and they rip their heads back and forth. They're never having children ever. They're
mean,
lucky to pee.
Why do films always do like so many guys either get kneed in the balls or attacked in the balls?
Because it's the one thing that can like really seriously take us down. Apart from getting punched.
Is it just me, or does that seem to happen more often in modern films? Maybe just because there was an entire scene devoted to Loki getting kneed in the balls repeatedly over and over.
Yeah.
That I'm just a bit more. I notice it more when it happens.
I do agree, but a broken cock is right twice a day, and getting kneed in the crotch, that will take a man down. It's taking me down.
I know this happened many times in films. In RoboCop, he literally shoots a guy's thing off.
Bitches leave.
Underneath the pants, but it's like the guy's holding something and he just straight through the woman's dress into his... And it's just like, ah!
Man or woman, you're coming with me. But it hurts. Oh boy, it hurts.
All right. I think that's everything. That's everything. We probably could continue if we think about it more and more, but we've definitely been able to give you our honest impressions of the film, breaking down some of the things we genuinely liked. So go check it out. I do recommend this film, and as always, stay on watch.